Homicides rising, gunfire echoing across neighborhoods. 148 lives lost in just 1 year. A city pushed to the edge.
I'm afraid, I'm afraid I'm gonna be the next person to get shot.
But now, something is shifting. New leadership, new strategy, and signs that the violence may finally be slowing down.
I see Birmingham as being a safer city in 2025.
Tonight, we go beyond the numbers. We hear from families, from law enforcement, from a city looking for a way forward. This is Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for this special town hall, Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. I'm Valerie Bell.
And I'm Ariel Bailey, and we want to get you involved in the conversation with our poll question for this evening. Do you believe Birmingham is becoming a safer city in 2025? You can scan the QR code on your screen to vote throughout the town hall.
148 lives lost, a staggering number. 2024 was the deadliest year in Birmingham in decades.
And here in 2025, something may finally be shifting. Homicides were down 40% in the first quarter of the year, and Birmingham police say new strategies are making a difference.
Tonight, we examine where the city stands, what's being done to stop the violence, and what still needs to change.
We'll hear from top law enforcement officials, from those who've lost loved ones to gun violence, and from people who live with the fear of crime every day.
We'll also confront the hard truths behind gang violence, staffing shortages, and explore the real solutions now taking shape.
This is about accountability, strategy, and hope, and it starts right now.
Here you have a man that's out on the very first day of 2025, making a living, trying to support his family, and someone committed the worst robbery that you can commit. They robbed a family of their loved one.
Just 21 hours into the new year, the first homicide of 2025, taking the life of 51-year-old Derek Burpo. Burpo was shot and killed in Roebuck while delivering pizzas.
Derek was a great employee, but he was a better person. You know, he was just working hard, trying to do the right things, take care of his mother. He didn't deserve this, and I hope that we can help bring him some justice and maybe some awareness.
Still, no arrests have been made. Crime Stoppers is offering a cash reward of up to $5,000 for your tip if it leads to an arrest in this case.
Birmingham's latest crime stats show mixed trends across the city. Homicides are down 44.8%, 32 so far this year compared to 58 at this point in 2024. Robbery is also down, 139 cases this year versus 152 at this point last year. Burglaries dropped by 7.5%, and auto thefts fell by more than 9%. But other categories are climbing. Rape is up 133%, 14 reported cases, more than double last year's 6. Aggravated assaults are up by 8.3%, with 701 reported compared to 647. Theft also rose slightly, up 4.5%, with more than 2,200 cases so far this year. Birmingham's police department has been under the leadership of Chief Michael Pickett since April 1st of this year. He was appointed chief by Mayor Randall Woodfin after serving as the interim for months following Chief Scott Thurman's retirement. Chief Pickett credits the 8-point crime plan unveiled in February for the drop in homicides.
It's a combination of things. It is the increased patrols that you see from our patrol officers. It's also the targeting of our most violent offenders with our special enforcement teams.
This strategy includes specialized enforcement teams, swift apprehension of violent offenders, strengthened federal partnerships, a stolen vehicles task force, crackdowns on illegal firearms, increased command presence, proactive discharging teams, and youth engagement through police athletic teams, but public opinion is split.
I think long term we'll see a lot less crime.
It could, but Birmingham's not in a good place, so you could put officers out there on the streets, but would it stop, would it stop somebody from executing a hit? Maybe not.
Honestly, no, that's really not making a difference.
They've been cracking down on crime like crazy, and I love it.
I love the new police chief. I love him already.
I think the plan is great. I think they need to continuously implement it and keep it consistent. And I think it's going to be effective.
Birmingham Police Chief Michael Pickett says officer morale is improving, driven by strong frontline leadership, a fresh recruiting push, and a renewed sense of purpose.
So there's been an improvement in morale from what I've observed. Officers are feeling more empowered. They're feeling more motivated to work, and you can see the results of that.
Pickett says a new recruit class graduated earlier this month and another is already lined up behind it. He's hoping that momentum continues to build for both the force and the trust needed to protect the community.
Birmingham's new strategy is showing promise, but progress doesn't erase the pain of the past.
Families are still grieving, and in several cases, one name continues to resurface.
Still ahead, a closer look at the case against Damian McDaniel and the lives forever changed by the crimes he's accused of committing.
You're watching Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. Welcome back to Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future.
Behind the crime numbers and policing strategies, there's a different battle happening inside the department itself.
Birmingham police are responding to high call volumes while understaffed, all with mandatory overtime.
Now, earlier this year, our I-team uncovered concerns from officers on the ground who said staffing had reached a crisis point.
Back in February, our I-team investigation exposed serious staffing struggles inside the Birmingham Police Department. Officers, speaking anonymously, described working alone, covering large areas without backup, and facing dangerous situations while exhausted and outmanned. They cited low morale, mandatory overtime, and a lack of transparency from leadership, all adding to what they called a crisis in the ranks. At the time, the department was operating at just 73% staffing.
We're at a point now where we be looking for help. The officers are looking for help. I talk to my guys and girls every day. They go out here, and whereas they used to work these streets with 17, 18, 19, 20 officers, 9, 7, 6, 8, they running from call to call.
Now, Police Chief Michael Pickett says things are changing with new recruits coming in and a shift in department culture.
In April, Birmingham Police launched its largest recruit class in over a decade. 49 new trainees selected from 168 candidates. Stay with us. Welcome back to Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. We've talked about the numbers, but behind every statistic is a name, a family, and a story that can never be erased.
And tonight we turn to one of the most high-profile and complex cases in Birmingham's history. Damian McDaniel, a 22-year-old, now accused in connection to 18 deaths, including an unborn child. Now, these are cases that have left entire neighborhoods shaken and families devastated.
A young mother, a beloved firefighter, innocent bystanders. Authorities say the trail of violence stretches across months, with victims ranging in age, background, and story. Here's a closer look from our I-Team at the case against Damian McDaniel.
Anitra was the person that held our family together. It has been a big difference by her being gone. She was an amazing girl. She was like my everything.
On September 21st, Candace Kemp's 21-year-old daughter left home for an alumni picnic with friends. When news of the mass shooting in 5 Points South spread on social media, Kemp grew worried.
I started calling her phone and it was just ringing.
She raced to the hospital, then back to the scene, searching for answers.
That's when the officer had pulled me to the side and told me that my daughter was one of the victims. And I just feel like a part of me left that night.
Anitra, the mother of a 1-year-old girl, was among the 4 people killed that night.
And I know in my heart that my daughter was not targeted. I know that they weren't targeting her. But it's just the senseless of not caring about others around you that makes it not fair, and it still has me angry.
Nearly a month later, the Birmingham Police Department announced an arrest in that case, 22-year-old Damian McDaniel.
The amount of violent acts that he's associated with is unprecedented.
The Jefferson County District Attorney's Office is prosecuting 8 separate cases against McDaniel, totaling 14 homicides in the span of 14 months.
In your experience, have you ever seen a case where one individual is charged in this many homicides?
I have not.
He has entered a plea of not guilty, and he maintains a plea of not guilty.
On July 12, 2023, 2 on-duty Birmingham firefighters were shot while working at Station 9. Jordan Melton died a few days later. Jamal Jones, who was critically injured, survived. Damian McDaniel and Eddie Jones were both charged in that case.
Obviously, killing a firefighter on a line of duty is a capital charge. And as a result of that, he was charged with that as well, along with the charge relative to the other firefighter as well. That did not die, fortunately.
Court documents allege Melton was intentionally targeted because he had been subpoenaed to testify in a murder trial against Larry Rollins, who also happens to be charged in a separate homicide connected to McDaniel. On January 10, 2024, 21-year-old Mia Nixon was shot in the driveway of her family's East Birmingham home. McDaniel is the sole person charged in this case. McDaniel is also charged alongside Charles Durius Nance in the death of UPS worker Anthony Love Jr. in an alleged murder-for-hire plot. Love was gunned down in the parking lot when leaving work on April 9, 2024.
Does anyone like to be accused of murder? Okay. As he said again, he has said he is not guilty. He has entered the plea of not guilty, and he stands on that plea of not guilty. I mean, I understand what the prosecution is claiming, these murder for hires, but again, that there's not been any evidence presented in court to support those allegations, and they are simply allegations at this point.
On July 13, 2024, gunfire erupted at Trendsetter's Lounge where a birthday party was being held. Lorandis Anderson, Stevie McGee, Markeisha Gettings, and Angela Weatherspoon were all killed. 10 others were injured. McDaniel and Hatarius Woods were both charged. A month later, on August 13th, 61-year-old Charlie Herbert Moore was killed inside his apartment. McDaniel, Woods, and Nance all charged in connection to that case. On September 19th, McDaniel is accused of killing 35-year-old DeAntronette Tanae Brown, an innocent bystander who was inside 604 bar. 2 days later, on September 21st, a mass shooting in Birmingham's 5 Points South. Carlos McCain, Roderick Lynn Patterson Jr., Anitra Holloman, and Taj Booker were all killed outside Hush Lounge. 17 others were injured. Again, McDaniel was charged, along with Naquan Lawler and Krishawn McLemore Bruce.
Why do that there at a night like that they knew that people were gonna be out celebrating. That was just selfish and cold-hearted. They don't care about nobody's life. They didn't care about nobody's life, did they?
Less than 24 hours later, police were investigating the robbery shooting death of Jamarcus Deshaun McIntyre in the 700 block of 81st Street South. McDaniel, Lawler, McLemore Bruce, in addition to Larry Rollins, DeMarco Beck Jr., and Zachary Holmes, all charged. The common thread through every case, McDaniel's alleged involvement.
The thing that kind of separates this out is that it wasn't simply in one location. You've got multiple events on multiple dates. And again, that goes to a level of violence and I think kind of a disregard for safety that in my experience, I don't recall ever encountering.
According to authorities, some of these killings could be murder for hire, raising questions about McDaniel's connections.
If what they're saying is true, that this is something that has been sanctioned by someone else, you have to then begin to think, well, what were his underworld connections relative to the streets in Birmingham? You know, who knows this guy? Because that goes to a bigger picture. You know, who's out there that would put money forward to say, I want you to go out and it doesn't matter how many people are harmed, I want you to decimate these people.
And while court documents lay out a trail of alleged violence, McDaniel himself spoke in a YouTube documentary produced by an international filmmaker, offering a window into his mindset.
Gonna do the same thing to you, so why not do it to them? Why show them compassion when they ain't gonna show your folks no compassion?
With so many cases, so many victims, the investigation into McDaniel is massive. JSU's distinguished scholar of forensic investigations, Joseph Scott Morgan, says firearms evidence alone plays a crucial role.
If there is a particular type of handgun or semi-automatic weapon that they're utilizing, you're looking for them to utilize that over and over again. And so that's the thread that connects this.
Investigators continue to work to piece together the evidence.
This investigation is still ongoing. It doesn't stop just because we're in court. It doesn't stop when a person is charged. It doesn't stop when a person is indicted.
Meanwhile, there's a push in Montgomery to speed up the legal process.
We want to make sure that there can be a priority on our violent cases and that we have the resources through prosecutors to be able to do it.
The Speedy Trial Act aims to expedite trials, reduce court backlogs, and ensure swift justice.
I think that is not only what a defendant has a constitutional right to be able to demand, but it's also equally important that victims understand that they're not waiting 4, 5, and 6 years for their cases to be heard.
Right now, McDaniel sits in Kilby Correctional Facility after his probation was revoked for a 2019 shooting in Fairfield. In February, a judge denied McDaniel's request to transfer to the Jefferson County Jail while awaiting trial. No trial date has been set for his Birmingham cases.
We are a long way from these cases being tried in court. There's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of things to do on both sides.
Do you know how soon that could take for the first case to be in front of a jury?
That is the magic question that no one has an answer for right now. There are a lot of things that have to happen behind the scenes.
And while nothing can bring the victims back, their families hold on to hope.
I pray to God every day for justice for my daughter.
Now, new charges were just announced for McDaniel this month, including a capital murder charge involving a double homicide and the death of an unborn child.
He has not been convicted and maintains his innocence. His attorney tells ABC 3340, quote, "The government has joined the bandwagon of bashing Damien in the public eye. The defense will continue to protect Damien's right to be treated fairly under the law." While the legal process plays out in courtrooms, police say the work to solve cases starts on the streets, often with tips from the community. In the 2024 Five Points South shooting, where 4 people were killed and 17 others were injured, it wasn't forensics that broke the case first. It was a citizen with a phone.
It was information from the public. That was our first and best piece of evidence as it relates to the Hush shooting. It came from a citizen that, you know, had the presence of mind to pull out their phone and get some recordings, and they sent it to us. that was the first big break.
Chief Pickett says even small details can move an investigation forward. And in a city still grappling with loss, community cooperation remains one of the strongest tools in the fight for justice. Up next, how crime impacts the places where we shop, eat, and gather. Local business owners share how safety concerns are affecting customers and what they're doing to keep the doors open.
And right now, let's take a look at our interactive poll results. We asked, do you believe that Birmingham is becoming a safer city in 2025? And taking a look at those results so far, we have 71% coming in at the most saying no, it's still dangerous. And then next, kind of close, we have 11 and 10% saying, I can't tell the difference, and then more needs to be done. Now, there's still time for you to join the conversation. You can scan the QR code on your screen. We'll check the results again later in this special town hall. You're watching Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. Stay with us. Welcome back to Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future.
We spoke with business owners in different neighborhoods across the city to see if crime has impacted them. We hear from businesses in Uptown, Avondale, Woodlawn, Smithfield, and 5 Points South.
Crime will always impact any community, anywhere. Generally, people want to live, work, and play where they feel safe. And so we have had instances of crime to happen, just like here in any other community. But I think when you have when you've created a sense of community. So what I mean by that is places like Rev Birmingham or Woodlawn United, who are stepping in and working collaboratively with the residents and the businesses. It creates a space for conversation around creating solutions and how we work together to help minimize or even prevent some of these things.
Tanisha Sims-Summers is the CEO of Naughty But Nice Kettle Corn Company in Woodlawn. She says community trust is important, so they don't take any additional measures other than the standard, locking their doors and not accepting cash. Now, when asked if there was anything she would say to the mayor or police chief, she encouraged them to connect more with people in the community, take time to talk with small businesses one-on-one, and attend meetings in the neighborhoods.
I would just say get more connected, because a lot of times, again, we say as our mantra, we're sweeter together, and we say we're popping with a purpose, as my shirt says. And for me, what that means is that we can all learn from one another. It doesn't matter your position, your race, your your financial status. I think that we all have something to contribute to make this world a sweeter place. And so in positions of leadership, you always have to kind of reverse engineer things and keep the people that you're serving at the heart of everything that you do.
Now over in Avondale, there's more of a nightlife with several restaurants and bars. At Taco Moro Loco, the owner's message to the mayor and chief is simple.
Keep doing the good work.
Let it work. Yes. Yeah, let it work, police. We're good.
This business says there's always a police presence in the area, and they feel safe not taking any additional measures regarding safety or having crime impact their operations.
Yes, the police is good now. It's a lot of clean in the area. It's a lot of police and second patrol and everything is good now.
Now, Smithfield is a much different community without streets lined with lounges and bars like Avondale. It's a different nightlife. Theodore Etheridge, the owner of Etheridge Brothers Barbershop here, says he has seen crime affect his business.
It have affected some, because see, a lot of people is afraid to get out and go different places. So a lot of them afraid to come to the barbershop because it's in the area. A lot of crimes are going on in this area.
Etheridge says he's taken steps to protect his business, and that includes an alarm system, video cameras, bars on the doors, and signs warning about being recorded in an effort to try and prevent crime. He says the fear some have that the city isn't safe is valid.
Oh yeah, it's valid, because now it's no doubt about it. It's crime is bad.
Now, while Etheridge says he hasn't had direct communication with BPD about crime, he's talked with some who have stopped in for a haircut. He believes the crime can't be policed out, saying it starts at home.
You head over into the Uptown area, you'll find the BJCC, including Protective Stadium. The area there is usually bustling with visitors. Crystal Bryant decided to relocate her cupcake company, K&J's, to Birmingham from Alabaster 3 years ago. She has no concerns about safety in Uptown for her business or customers.
Down at Uptown City Walk, they do a really good job of having security on 24/7 on the premises.
This constant presence gives Bryant peace of mind, especially when her shop is closed.
In September, 5 Points South made national headlines when a mass shooting happened on Saturday night. 4 people were killed, 17 others injured. The community was shocked, given 5 Points' reputation for being a safe, vibrant nightlife spot.
We were one of the fortunate businesses to have people still coming to support us every single day as if it was not even something that happened. I think that over the time that 5 Points has rebounded significantly. That was not a shooting that defined 5 Points.
Ace Graham says his business has not personally been affected by that tragedy. He notes that BPD, including Chief Michael Pickett, have stopped in to speak with him and other business owners. As someone who lives and works in 5 Points, Graham feels the mass shooting doesn't define the community there.
I think that you have to spend time in these places to really understand what the culture is. There's a lot of diversity in 5 Points. This is a multicultural community, so there's a lot of great things happening here, but you have to be willing to spend the time here to actually know that.
There is a stigma built around the Birmingham community that it may be dangerous. However, Graham believes that is a multicultural community. As a multicultural community, one has to be willing to spend time in and learn about and not believe the stigma of danger in Birmingham.
Coming up, a deeper look into the ties that can fuel violence in our city. We're talking about groups, retaliation, and the social dynamics police say it's working to disrupt every day. We'll be right back.
Even as homicides drop in Birmingham, questions remain. What's fueling violence and how much is rooted in feuding neighborhood groups?
In part one of an I-Team series that aired in January, a former gang member shares his story.
At the age of 13, I joined a gang called the Crips. And I think from age 13 to 16, it was a pretty tough part of my life. The gang life is not anything like most ordinary people think. It's a whole lot worse than you could ever believe.
He says many young people aren't seeking trouble, they're looking for family.
If there's any kind of brokenness in your family or anything like that, you're really susceptible to that. And I think that once you're sucked into that, through your vulnerability, it just overtakes your whole life.
The I-Team read through a 66-page crime commission report. Part was focus groups, one which included gang members revealed many joined to make money or follow friends and older brothers who were already in. When asked about gangs in Birmingham, city leaders had different takes.
So in a traditional sense of Bloods, Crips, and Disciples, no. But you have pockets of young men who may have beef with another group of young men.
Here in Birmingham, there are gangs. We have gangs. And any police chief of a major city say they don't, I would ask them what they're drinking.
Jefferson County Sheriff Mark Petway says younger gangs are now fueled by online attention.
They put everything out on social media. They show their guns, they show their money.
For Steve Skipper, leaving gang life meant finding purpose.
When it comes to a person's heart being turned in this direction, something that's really that bad, you can't legislate that out of their hearts. The only thing that can turn that is a relationship with Jesus Christ.
For Steve Skipper, faith was the way out, and he hopes the next generation also finds a better path.
When we asked Birmingham Police Chief Michael Pickett about gang activity, he says his department doesn't see large-scale organization or national influence, but they are tracking smaller groups that can still do real damage.
Not so much the national nexus, not anything really organized. Mostly what we see is, the neighborhood groups, if you will. And then also, some of the social media stuff. There's a lot of social media feud that goes on and things of that nature, but nothing extremely organized.
Chief Pickett says partnerships are key at the local, state, and federal levels. When we come back, a conversation that goes beyond the headlines.
We'll hear from two people whose lives were changed forever by gun violence, their stories, their strength, and what they want city leaders to hear. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. Every statistic, every headline represents a life. And tonight, we pause to hear from the people who carry that loss every single day.
Mothers, brothers, grandparents, families whose loved ones were taken by violence. Now for them, healing is a journey, but so is the demand for change.
Joining us today, we have Rochelle Gaston Malone and Dimitri Carpenter to share their perspectives and experience as we look toward a safer, stronger Birmingham. And we know you both have been impacted, you losing both of your brothers and you losing your son. How has that shaped, how you go about looking at violence in Birmingham, and what have you done since, and what was that moment like for you?
For me, the way I see violence now, I look at it from a different perspective, of course, from a victim's standpoint. And what it has done for me, it's fueled my fire and my passion for education even more, to try my best to help our now generation of youth and future generation of youth to create a new mindset for reacting and responding to situations that can escalate to violence and could create gun violence situations. So my focus has been to create in them some knowledge that they can use to be proactive. That's been my word. That's been my focus for them. How do I be proactive in my living, in my responding, in my reacting amongst my peers, in my neighborhood, amongst my family, in situations before they arise so they won't become violent and offset some of these occurrences.
Okay. And Dimitri?
Yes, so same for me. I've already been working in the city for some years, even before my brothers had been murdered. So for me, it just amplified that passion that I already had to really effect change from a place of mentorship and pairing with churches and other organizations to really create spaces where our young adults and youth can come and really just build community, get to know one another. Because I truly believe that is where you're going to see a lot of the change begin to happen. When you create spaces where they can come together, learn what it looks like to love each other, embrace each other, and do life together. So even before my brothers were killed, I was committed, and so that just amplified it even worse. I tell people the devil, he thought he did something, but he really just pissed me off. So I went harder.
Yeah. And now you both mentioned that you work with youth. So how do they respond to that, what you guys do with them?
I've had very positive responses from the youth. So when Jordan was killed, before he was killed, we had a conversation. He said, "Mom, I believe God has called me to mentor youth." He said specifically young men that have gotten on the wrong path or are leading in that direction. And I said, okay, so pray about that and see, and ask him to show you how that needs to look so we can, and I support you so you can look forward. So now I have stepped into that role of making sure that becomes a reality. And so the Jordan E. Melton Memorial Crusade was born, and then out of that movement, I have founded the Jordan E. Melton Empowerment and Mentorship Society, which takes me into organizations and to schools that focus on youth groups and presenting to them information through a curriculum, a pledge that I wrote, the I Choose Nonviolence Pledge. Out of that was born a curriculum. Being a retired educator, I felt the need to provide them with vocabulary and all of the basic tools that they needed to have an understanding. Oftentimes our youth now are faced with so much in their community that they focus on what they're faced with right then at that moment, the survival part. But my focus is for them to not just be survivors, but to be successful beyond the surviving. And that takes them to take a mind shift, looking at their situations differently, from a different viewpoint and a set of eyes that will cause them to be able to make better decisions. So hopefully it's been impactful. I believe that it has been.
Okay, well, we're actually a little bit out of time, guys. I wish we had a little bit more time to hear more from you, but we want to thank you for being here with us today, taking time out to talk with us about this. Thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
for having
thank
me.
you both. Now, more Alabamians are turning to the state for help after experiencing violent crime. The Alabama Crime Victims Compensation Fund provides financial relief for medical bills, funeral costs, counseling, and lost wages. Between October 2023 and September 2024, the agency processed over 3,400 claims, paying out more than $3.3 million, including nearly $500,000 for sexual assault forensic exams.
We don't want violent crime to occur within our communities, and unfortunately when it does, we want to make sure that we have a positive impact in those folks' life.
Johnson says monthly applications have nearly doubled over the last 2 years, and while the fund is primarily supported through court fines and fees, officials hope to boost payouts through legislative support in the future.
Well, coming up, we hear from Crime Stoppers, a resource for people to remain anonymous to provide tips that have helped solve cases.
Plus, a look back at what you told us through our interactive poll tonight. Stay with us. Operation Crime and Justice continues right after this. Tonight, we've heard from families who've lost so much, from parents, siblings, and survivors who are still carrying unimaginable grief. In this final segment, we now turn to Crime Stoppers, a name many know, but few know the process.
And joining us now, a Crime Stoppers representative who helps connect tips to arrest and offers hope to families seeking justice. We have with us right now Ken Atkinson, the program coordinator for Crime Stoppers of Metro Alabama. And Ken, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. First question is, what makes a tip a case breaker for you all?
Well, you know, at Crime Stoppers, and one of the big misconceptions is Crime Stoppers is part of the Birmingham Police or part of a police department, which we are not. So we take the information that we receive as a tip and we send that to law enforcement, whether it's Birmingham or whoever it is, and we allow them to do their job, to investigate that tip that we sent and to determine if that's a useful tip or not. But if your tip comes to Crime Stoppers, we're going to get it to the police.
And what happens after someone calls or submits that tip anonymously online? What are the next steps?
Well, the first thing is we receive the tip either on our phone or at the office on our laptop, and then we process that tip, and by that I mean we determine where it needs to go, because Crime Stoppers of Metro Alabama covers 7 counties. So we determine which agency needs to get that tip, and then we make sure that that agency's investigators receive that information so they can have it.
Okay, so how do you make sure the person who speaks up stays protected?
Yes, and one of the big misconceptions I think about Crime Stoppers is you're not really anonymous. But in fact, Crime Stoppers of Metro Alabama goes out of their way to guarantee anonymity. You're never asked for any identification. If you submit a tip, it doesn't ask you for your name or your phone number, your address. You can do that online. We get it through our software. We have a server that's outside of the country that's routed through, so we don't have an IP address. If you call the number 254-7777, it goes to the Birmingham switchboard with all the other thousands of calls, and it shows up on our system as City of Birmingham. It does not come up with your name or your number.
Now let's talk about the rewards that are offered through Crime Stoppers. How often do those cash tips or those cash that people can get really help move the needle in cases?
I think it helps tremendously, because we are one of the programs that we pay out rewards once a week. So we pay on a very regular basis. This month alone, we paid close to $12,000 in tips. So we do pay cash and we pay weekly, and we have a good relationship with the police that get back with us and let us know if that tip is in fact something they could have used, and lets us know to, hey, pay this tipster.
Gotcha. Now, what cases typically get featured? Do you guys offer money for every case?
Correct. We offer up to $5,000, and any kind of crime or any kind of information that someone thinks the police need to have, we make sure that we process that and send it to the police department.
Okay. And real quick, how successful has this been right here in Birmingham?
It's been tremendously successful, and we have seen an increase not only in the number of calls, but in the quality of the information in those calls and that information. And we have a great working relationship with Birmingham Police Department, and so I think it's been a huge success.
Ken, thank you so much for your time and for being here with us.
And now we return to our poll question for today. Do you believe Birmingham is becoming a safer city in 2025? Right now, looking at the results, is 71% still saying no, it's still dangerous, and then coming in tied at 10%, more needs to be done, and I can't tell the difference. Now, we want to hear from you. You can scan the QR code to give us your thoughts.
And all across the city, people are looking for hope, for reassurance that their voices are being heard and that action is being taken.
And tonight, through these stories and strategies, we hope you've seen that action is being taken. There are no easy answers, but there are people willing to step forward and try.
As we close, we want to offer a moment of unity, because Birmingham's future doesn't just rest on politics or policies, but on the people who refuse to give up.
And we ask you now to join us in a moment of reflection led by Pastor Steve Green of More Than Conquerors Faith Church.
We thank you for watching Operation Crime and Justice, the fight for Birmingham's future. The news at 5 is next.
Eternal God, our Father, so much is going on in our city, but your word declares that you've given us great and precious promises. We pray those promises now. You told us we could come boldly before your throne, that we can obtain mercy, find grace to help in the time of need. We pray the promise of Matthew 11 that says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Give our city rest. The same kind of rest you promised in Isaiah 62, when you said that city would no longer be called, Father, a place of forsaken and desolate, but they will be called on and protected by the Lord. So we thank you for your divine guidance, your divine protection, and your divine peace. We cast all of our cares upon you because you care for us. We know that these prayers avail much, and we thank you that Birmingham has a bright future. And as Jeremiah 29:11 says, Father, you know the thoughts and plans you have for Birmingham. It's plans of a hope in the future, that you would give us a happy and expected end. May the Lord bless you, Birmingham. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord be gracious to you, give you peace, write his name above your name, and make his face to shine upon you is my prayer. God bless you. It's our prayer tonight.
Live, streaming, and on the ABC 3340 app. This is ABC 3340 News at 5.
First at 5, we are finally getting a small break from the rain as we look live over Protective Stadium in downtown Birmingham, but the break won't last for long. Thank you for